Hi there, wrestling fans. Welcome to another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Lance Brock here for episode 294. And on this episode, gonna talk about the most recent episodes of WWE Friday Night Smackdown and AEW Rampage. Let's get started off with Friday Night Smackdown on Fox. Commentators tonight, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. We start things off with Drew McIntyre, and then he is interrupted by Sheamus, and both of them are interrupted by Paul Heyman and Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce informs them with some convincing from Paul Heyman that neither one of them will be involved in the Money in the Bank match, but they have another opportunity to qualify, and that is if they beat the Bloodline's undisputed tag team champions, the Usos. Then our first match of the evening is a qualifying match for the men's Money in the Bank match. We have Sami Zayn taking on Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura, though, doesn't want to get the count out win, so he gets Zayn back in the ring, and Zayn picks up the victory, qualifying for the Money in the Bank ladder match. And then we get the New Day with Jinder Mahal and Shanky. The New Day want Shanky to dance, but then Jinder Mahal gets upset, leaves, and they are interrupted on the Titantron as the Viking Raiders, but they come from the crowd behind and attack the New Day, leave both Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods out lane. And we have a women's handicap match up next. Sonya Deville is put up against Lacey Evans and Raquel Rodriguez. She is defeated in this handicap match. And next up we get Natalya dressed up as Ronda Rousey with a baby stroller. And then we see the real Ronda Rousey come out. Natalya hits her with the stroller. They will face off for the SmackDown Women's Championship at Money in the Bank 1 week from tomorrow, or today actually, since it's after midnight now. And we have a rematch for the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther taking on Ricochet. Gunther retains. This one, not a bad match. I wouldn't say it was anything real great either, though. Now we have a qualifying match for the women's Money in the Bank match. Tamina Snuka versus Shotzi Blackheart. And next we have Eli Drake in the back. Or, he's not Eli Drake anymore. I forgot his new WWE name, to be honest, but he's bringing those new models, or whatever they're called now. But they don't have the right kind of water in their dressing room, so it's going to happen next week, maybe. At least they're advertising it for next week now. Like I said, don't remember his WWE name, so it's Eli Drake. And his NXT name was LA Knight, I know, but now that he's on the main roster, they gave him another new name, which I cannot think of right now. But then it's main event time. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus taking on the Usos, representing the Bloodline. And McIntyre pins Jimmy Uso to get the win for him and Sheamus. So now they fight for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now we move on to AEW Rampage, which was taped Wednesday night. And commentators Excalibur, Taz, and Chris Jericho. We start off Andrade Helio taking on Rey Fenix. Good match. And then we see the former Ring of Honor World Champion, who we found out back at Double or Nothing, was coming into AEW. Roosh get involved to help Andrade pick up the win. And then, after the match, they double team Phoenix, take his mask off. Penta comes in to make the save, though. Alex helps cover him up. Women's action up next. Tag team match. Serena, Deeb, and Mercedes Martinez defeat the team of Sierra and Laney Luck, as Deeb and Martinez have double submissions locked in. And then we see Tully Blanchard, and he introduces Tully Blanchard Enterprises. Hook versus DKC is next. Hook gets the win via submission with the Red Rum. Now we go to the back for the Mark Henry interview with the two superstars that will be in the main event tonight, Cash Wheeler and Jeff Cobb. The usual, it's time for the main event, as Mark Henry usually says. And we got Cash Wheeler versus Jeff Cobb up next, and Cobb picking up the victory in the Rampage main event. And then we see a brawl with the United Empire and Chaos. That was Rampage and Smackdown. So, both shows were pretty good. I wouldn't say anything real spectacular, but definitely worth watching anyway. And coming up now this Sunday, AEW Forbidden Door. I hope to have another show before then, previewing this big pay-per-view, and of course after the pay-per-view, a recap of it. And then Wednesday, I've been talking about here in Detroit, the first ever AEW Dynamite in Michigan, Blood and Guts. And we'll definitely be talking about that more in the next 4 or 5 days. So that's all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you very much for tuning in, wherever you listen to at. And if you got any questions, comments, or suggestions, anything, predictions for Forbidden Door, predictions for Blood and Guts, who do you think is going to replace Bryan Danielson and face Will Ospreay at the pay-per-view and take his place in the Blood and Guts match? You can 360 Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com, the email. And if you can support 360 Wrestling Podcast, you can. Any amount will do. But if you can't, that's okay too. Go to anchor.fm/360-wrestling-podcast 360. I'll put it in the description. Once again, thank you for tuning in tonight or this morning, whenever you're listening. Until the next episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.